Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome to today's continuing education. And I'm going to get myself situated here. All right, we're certainly glad to be here today. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, I hope that you're staying out of the water. Because we're having a major water event right now. And even on our own small area, we are having a lot more water than we would like to have. But anyhow, we're here, we're online. We don't have to worry about this, right? So welcome to my continuing education. So we meet every other Thursday here at 4 o'clock, and it will be the same Zoom number. And then every other Tuesday, we meet at 7 p.m. So if you'd like to be online, live with me, I welcome that opportunity. And if you're in my groups, then thank you for being there and thank you for joining us and thank you for watching the replay. We have a lot to cover because I'm going through the alphabet, A through Z. So my name's Diana Hinkle and I have been a problem solver for a very, 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 very long time. I've always been one of those that, well, if they can do it with that, couldn't I do it with this? I'm always looking for alternatives. I was certainly glad when I was introduced to an alternative to my health, which is natural health and natural alternatives using essential oils. Now, this information is not about curing, treating, or diagnosing anything. This is all about information and what essential oils could do for you and to help and support your body. So today we're talking about basil and bergamot. These two are incredible, and we're going to dive into basil first. And my very first experience with basil was a long time ago. And I have a granddaughter who would consistently get ear infections. And my daughter's working, and luckily for me, I was called, hey, can you go pick up my daughter? This is just not too long after I started into essential oils, the essential oil world just over 10 years ago. And so I thought to myself, okay, I'll go get her. And on the way there, I'm like, oh, wait, I have nothing here at my home for her. So I pick up a young lady from daycare who is miserable. Then I take her into the grocery store thinking, I got to get something, right? What do most of us reach for? Some kind of something to alleviate the discomfort or the pain. Tylenol, Triminic, whatever it is, right? So I chose Triminic because at the time Tylenol was getting a lot of bad rap because of recalls. So I got Triminic. Then from the grocery store home, I'm like, wait a minute, it seems like I remember reading something about basil and ear infections. And so sure enough, I get home and I'm like, so where's that paper? I looked for it, found it. And sure enough, yep, basil and lavender was recommended to put on a cotton ball, put it in the ear, and then leave it there for a couple hours. So that's exactly what I did. I put her to bed. She took a 2-hour nap. And you gotta remember, she's like, I don't know, maybe she's, what is she now, 13? So 10 years, so she was only not even 3 years old. Or thereabouts. She's a big girl now. Actually, I think she's taller than me now. But it's like, I put that on the cotton ball, put her to bed. 2 hours later, she woke up and started playing like nothing was wrong. And I was like totally blown away that she wasn't still miserable or that she got worse, and nothing. Even my daughter was like, wow, that was amazing, because typically that doesn't happen, right? And yes, I did give her Triminic, but in conjunction with that, which is traditional of what we're doing, I did the alternative as well. Would it have worked with just the Triminic? It hadn't in the past, but who knows? Yeah, all I know is the result was we had a happy young lady and not screaming at you. That in itself is priceless, right? It doesn't matter what it costs or how much it doesn't cost. That part's priceless. Of which, by the way, that only cost me a couple cents. The Triminic was a whole lot more money than what I did with the basil and lavender. It was 1 drop of each on a cotton ball. That's it. That was less than 60 cents. Amazing, right? Triminic was a little bit more than that. So let's talk about basil. Basil, obviously good for ear stuff, right? How often do you go to a gym? Do you swim? Do you go to swimming lessons? Whatever that is, swimmer's ear as they call it. You can still do the same thing on a cotton ball. Put it in the ear. And just let it sit there for a couple hours. Okay? That's amazing to be able to do that. The other thing is you can put it on the bone right behind the ear. That's another place that you can add it when it comes to an ear issue. Okay. Now, basil is also something that it's an antibacterial, it's anti-infectious, it's an antispasmodic, it's a nervine, and it's also I cannot pronounce it today. Carminative. Hey, I struggle through things too. So that I'm not going to say that I never do. All right. So what are all the other things that basil is good for? Basil is good for that overwhelming, anxious feeling. How many of us have that these days? It's good for adrenal fatigue. So adrenal fatigue, you can just put a couple of drops on the adrenals, which are back behind. So a lot of people think of it as your kidneys, but it's right on kind of just above the lower part of your back. Okay, that's where your adrenals are. You can apply 1 or 2 drops there, or you can apply it to your feet. Why would we apply it to your feet? Because that's the largest pores, and it gets into your blood system, your bloodstream, and it gets to where it needs to go quickly. When an essential oil soaks into your skin, it gets in your skin within 30 seconds. 20 to 30 seconds, it is already soaked into the skin. So that kid that's running down the hallway and you're trying to put an oil on them, and you get it on the back of their neck, and they're like, I'm gonna go wash it off. Too late. By the time they get there and do that, it's already doing its thing. I love that analogy. Because I know that I have plenty that have done that. And they're chasing them like, no. But anyway, and within 20 to 30 minutes, every single cell in your body is benefiting from that essential oil. So within 20 seconds, soaks in, okay? And then within minutes, it's in every single cell. That is just 1 drop. Imagine if you do 2 or 3, but more is not always better. In this case, we're using something natural. So less, more often is better than more, less often. We're in that world of more, and bigger is better, but bigger is not always better, and more is not always better. In this case, with essential oils, it's less, more often. 1 or 2 drops more often, like every 2 to 4 hours versus a whole bunch of drops every 4 to 6 hours or once or twice a day. Okay, keep that in mind. Unless you're doing a recipe and putting it in a roller bottle of sorts, that's a different story. Okay, so adrenal fatigue, mental fatigue, you can literally just take the basil, put it in your hand, roll it around, rub it around. Take a deep breath. Even for that overwhelming anxiety that you've got going on, calm yourself. You can diffuse it, and I'll give you your diffuser recipe. But diffuse it. And we also have some great affirmations with that. If you're overwhelmed, why are you overwhelmed? What's going on in your life that you are like thinking that it's too much? Well, these days, that could be, I mean, most of us have got way too much going on and too many things happening all at once. We have a pandemic going on. We have people that are getting sick, people that are dying. We have inflation going on. We have so much going on to fill our heads that we just don't know where to go. So here's an affirmation. And if you don't know what affirmations are, please look into this, because if you are smelling your oil and at the same time, when you smell that oil, now you want to create something goes on in your mind when you are telling your brain something along with that smell. Okay. So here's your affirmation. I am committed to saying yes to that which inspires me. I honor myself enough to say no to things that don't serve. I am committed to being well so I can make my greatest contributions. So it's just helping yourself remember just anything, like even if you are telling yourself as you smell, you're releasing certain endorphins in your brain. And so by smelling something that helps that chemical in the brain kind of unwind, now your brain says, oh, I love this. And so that overwhelm with those anxious feelings start kind of dissolving a little bit. It's so much nicer to be able to do this versus taking a pill, going to the doctor, says, oh, we have to put you on an antidepressant. There are other choices, and there are good choices. You have to make those choices. So this is what basil can do for you in an emotional way. You can diffuse it a few drops in your diffuser. You can put it in with some other citrus oils so that you get that renewal, okay, or more of a refreshing scent, okay. Now, we've touched earache, mental fatigue, adrenal fatigue, muscle spasms is good for. So for those of you that have that restless leg going on, not quite sure what it is, but this is one of those essential oils that can help with that. You just want to massage it onto the area with a carrier oil. We like fractionated coconut oil because that is a clear liquid and it does not have a fragrance to it. So you're going to smell your essential oil with it. Usually 1 to 2 drops and of the essential oil to about 4 or 5 drops of your carrier oil. It can get more or less as far as your carrier oil goes, but that's kind of a good equation to go to. The smaller the person, like kids, the more coconut oil, fractionated coconut oil, or carrier oil you want to use, okay? And you only want to use 1 drop of your essential oil. It goes a long, long way, okay? What about wrists? How many of you are doing this all day? Online, computer, phone, whatever, and this starts to hurt. What is that? muscles, could be carpal tunnel, could be. Massage it into your wrists, the basil, and other joints that may have some issues going on. It's also good for cramping. So you can put it on your abdomen at your belly button. Always do clockwise. So if you were looking at the clock, that's the direction. So from right to left. So we're going backwards, right? Why do we do that? We are doing that because from right to left or clockwise on our abdomen, it's the way our digestive system works. So we want it to go in the right direction, not the wrong. We don't want to move it in the wrong direction. We want it to flow through. Okay. Basil. Cooking. Have you ever thought about using basil to cook with? I bet you get basil at the store, right? So why not use basil essential oil? How much do you use? Good question. Typically, you dip the toothpick and swirl it in whatever it is that you're doing. Now, no, you don't take the toothpick and go back and forth. Don't do that, please. That's contamination. We don't want to do that. But usually, that's how much it takes. That little. So we're talking less than a penny for most things. For one drop, when you start cooking with your essential oils, think of a teaspoon of dry herb to 1 drop of essential oil. So like if it was oregano, would you use a teaspoonful of oregano? Probably not in most cases, okay? 1 drop is plenty, and then from there, it's either the toothpick dipped in there and swirled into whatever you're making, or you can take your finger and you would, let me see here. No, neither of these are open. You would tip your finger on the top of the, where the lid's off. These are all new and I don't want to open them. They have that orifice reducer and there's always oil on the top of there. So you can tap your finger on top and you'll see that you have essential oil on there, and you can either put it on the spoon and then swirl it in your batter or whatever you're cooking. That's typically enough. I do this all the time. If you need more, you can add more. But when you add too much, you can't take it out. I remember, we're not talking oregano, but I remember way back when there was someone that decided they wanted oregano in their rice, and they put 4 drops in their rice, and they have the big rice cooker. And it was way too much. Well, then they decided, well, we'll make some more rice and add that. That was too much. They finally just threw everything on. So again, 1 drop is the equivalent of 1 teaspoon of dried herb. So always keep that in mind. Use less. Always use less. So those limiting self-beliefs for the affirmation, that overwhelm, that is something that you can really work on with basil. And there's a lot of alcohols. I don't mean alcohol, but alcohols, the constituents in essential oils. There's linalool, which it's very calming, and it's a very renewing oil to help us feel rejuvenated and committed to a higher life, to better life. What else can, migraines. Basil's good for migraines or dizziness. You could put it on the back of your neck, back here. Just rub it in back there. You can also use it with wintergreen or peppermint on the temples or the back of the neck. And what else could we do? What else? Oh, gout. Gout is another one. So the bottom of the feet. So what is gout? Gout is usually when we have a lot of uric acid that is settled, and it settles in the feet. So how do we dispense that? How do we get rid of it? Basil is one of those that can help with that. You can just apply it to the bottoms of the feet. You can apply it to the ears. Ears, wait, it's gout, right? Well, we have reflex points all along the side of the ear. We have reflex points on our hands, and we have reflex points on our feet. So even if you just took the basil and rubbed it all around here on your ear, it gets there. But it doesn't matter. It always gets there. It's just that you want it to get to that place first, or do you want it to just get to the, just put it on and let it get there when it where it's going to. So it's also good for bug bites. And it's also good to diffuse in your house for bugs. You can put it in a capsule, and you can take it internally also. And you can, what else can you do with it? Oh, remember those spider bites, bug bites, snake bites, all good. Okay. And by the way, it is one of the king of ancient civilization. Now, let me give you a diffuser recipe. It's 2 drops of basil, 2 drops of ginger, and 2 drops of grapefruit, and put that in your diffuser. This is to help in clearing your thinking and your mental alertness. So if you need to be more alert, like homework, more focused on things, then this is a great thing to diffuse in your home. Okay, now let's talk about bergamot. Bergamot is kind of one of my favorites for many different reasons, but one of those is because I use bergamot on with my horses. Bergamot was one of those that it's very calming for one. Yes, it's very bitter for another. It's not one that you can take it internally, but it's not one that you want to really take internally unless you really like bitter stuff. It's a citrus, so bergamot is actually kind of like the lime, but it's the fruit that's not ripe yet. Okay, it's still green. So bergamot for my horses is very calming, because if I have a horse that is colicky, then the first thing I want to do is to calm their entire system down. How do I do that, right? Because they're usually in that fight or flight, and at this point they're fighting, and sometimes it's very they want to get down and just roll around. You don't want them to do that. So if you're familiar with horses, colic is when they get backed up. So if we get constipated, there's usually something we can do for that. But if we get constipated, we don't feel good, right? And a horse, it's the same thing. They don't feel good and they're backed up. But the problem with that is that a horse will get down and roll so much that they can flip their intestines over. And then you have a horse that is in dire need of surgery. So this is something you don't want them to do, is to get down and roll. So how do you get them to release, and how to get them to calm down? Bergamot is really good for that. Now, I do it 2 ways. I get a clothespin and clip it to their nose after I put a drop of bergamot on, or just my finger, and then swipe that wood clothespin, clip it to their nose. And why am I doing it? 1, it's natural endorphins to calm them. And then 2, I have the bergamot, they're smelling that. It only takes a few seconds. Yes, they're going to shake off that clothespin, but it doesn't matter. It only takes a few seconds for them to smell that, to get it into their system and get their brain to go, wait, calm down, right? And then you're doing other things for colic. Digestin is really good for that as well, over the flanks. But It actually can help the body release and get rid of what's being backed up or what's holding them back. It gives you enough time to let somebody go call the vet. So if you feel like you need to call the veterinarian, then do that. Hopefully they're going to come out and see that by the time they get there, this horse is doing great and all they're doing is checking the vitals and making sure everything is good. Instead of having a horse that's in dire need that they're on, they end up in IVs or they end up having to have surgery, whatever the case, it can go really bad. So be prepared. This is in my barn so that I know, and and people know what to do if they're here and they see those signs. But what else does bergamot do? Bergamot is good for grieving. How many of us are grieving these days? Just like we talked about with basil, and that we have so much anxiety because we have overwhelm and all that going on. So bergamot's another one of those that can help us in the grieving process. You have a loved one that has recently passed. I have friends that have passed, not because of, well, I know people that have died of COVID, and I know people who died just otherwise. Do we need to grieve? Grieving is good for us. So using bergamot, again, put it in your hands, rub it, breathe it in, and do that several times. You can also put it on the back of your neck. You can put it in a diffuser along with some other oils that you may really like, and we'll give you some recipes for that too. So the grieving process, yes, there's other oils we can use, but what else? This is one of those that you can use for that, this grieving. So I get it. So bergamot is another one of those that is anti-inflammatory. It's also antidepressant. It's an antibacterial. It's also antifungal. And it's good for digestion. You can take it internally. You can put it in a capsule and take it internally, a couple of drops, 2 or 3 drops if you'd like. Or you can just put it on your abdomen. Rub it clockwise, and you can use a carrier oil with it so it goes farther, and use it for digestive issues. It's another reason why I like bergamot for my horses, because it does help the gut move, okay, and get better. So what are the things in that? It's those constituents that are in that oil to help them. It's good for people that are for certain addictions. You can do the back of the neck or the bottoms of your feet. Always back of the neck, bottom of the feet. That's our main areas to put essential oils. You can also use it for insomnia. How many times do you not sleep at night? Or do you waking up and you can't go to sleep? Bergamot's one of those you can put in your diffuser. Or you can just put it a little bit under your nose and breathe it in and go to bed. It's good for stress. So stress is another factor. It's good for fungal issues like your feet or the toes. How many people have fungal issues going on? Just apply it neatly, which means by itself, directly to the source, to the problem. It's good to you put it on your chest for coughing, or for bronchial issues or respiratory issues. You can use it on your skin if you have a lot of acne. You can, like eczema or psoriasis, it's good for that. But depending on how much you want, how big is the area, you may want to use that carrier oil again, or add it, or put it in a roller bottle. How much do you use in a roller bottle? Well, that depends on you. But in like a 5 ml bottle, typically anywhere from 10 to 20 drops of essential oils, and then the rest carrier oil. And then 10 ml, just double it, okay? Bergamot is also good for loss of appetite. You can take it in a capsule or just breathe it in. So how many people do you know that just don't want to eat? This can help them want to eat. Me, I'm the other side of the scale. I need to not want to eat. And then like basil, bergamot's also good for those self-worthiness. Do you not like yourself? Do you not love yourself? You can use that affirmation and help in that emotional balance that you need for yourself. Because we need to help ourselves. If we don't help ourselves, who will? We really have to look at that, because emotional well-being, especially these days, is something that we don't think about enough. And you have to be taking care of yourself. We can think about, because if we don't take care of ourselves and if we have issues, who's going to take care of them? Nothing to think about. So we know that it's good for gut health, and it's also good for your kids. So small children, it's 1 drop once or twice a day on the feet. It will help their digestive system. And bergamot's not one of those very high, it's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for them. And you know, has such a cranky baby. Now, if you want to go a little bit beyond and you do have a baby that has some issues with their digestive system, we have a great Pbs Junior, which is like a pixie stick. You can take half of the sachet and put that in their milk or their water, whatever they're drinking, whether it's your bottle feeding, or even if you're nursing, then give them a bottle of water and then put some of that in there. It'll dissolve, and it's really good for their digestive system as well. And it actually tastes good. I've actually done this with great grandkids where they were very tiny, we're talking days old. And I would actually be like sugar, I put it on your finger and I'd put it in their mouth. And that's all they needed. But I would do that a couple times a day to keep them from upchucking, because a lot of times that's what happens is our formulas that we have for our children these days are way too rich, and there's a lot of junk in them. Honestly, there's a lot of junk. So that's a big reason why we have kids or babies that don't do well with their formula. So think about that. So knowing what bergamot is for and how it can help you in that calming state and self-awareness of you. It's an antidepressant. These are so helpful for so many, and it's so easy to just put some in your hand, rub it, and just smell it. Kind of like stop for a moment and smell the roses. So we're going to stop for a moment and smell the bergamot, or smell the basil, or smell any essential oil, because any essential oil will help change chemistry that's going on in your brain so that you can get back to that positive emotion. And if you have to do it repeatedly, because if you have an addiction, you can't sleep, or you're having all these other problems, you didn't start overnight. It took some time for it to show up. It's going to take a little bit of time to create a different story. 21 days actually to create something different. So here's a diffuser blend for you at home. It's 3 drops of bergamot, 2 drops of clary sage, 2 drops of sandalwood, and it doesn't matter if it's Hawaiian sandalwood or regular sandalwood, your choice. And then about 3 teaspoons of fractionated, or actually, sorry, this isn't a diffuser blend. This is an oil blend. I'm backwards. So this is for putting on your body. Okay, those is 3 drops bergamot, 2 drops clary sage, 2 drops sandalwood, and use about 3 teaspoons of fractionated coconut oil. And you can put this in a little bottle, whatever you have handy, or a small glass jar. And then after you're showering, you can actually put this on your body and let it soak in. Fractionated coconut oil will soak into your skin. It is not drying, and it's actually very nourishing to your skin. And yes, it's just like your essential oils, it soaks into the skin. Okay, so that's a kind of a, you know, we do treatments for our hair, so why not do treatments for our skin? It's another way, a little beauty trick there. But if you want a diffuser blend, 5 drops of bergamot, 3 drops of cassia, 2 drops of spearmint, one of my favorites, and 2 drops of lime. And put that in your diffuser for something that's very energetic. Now, if you're looking for something that is calming, but you want some respiratory help, you can have Breathe Blend with the bergamot and with some lime. Your choice, 1 or 2 drops of lime, 1 or 2 drops of bergamot, and about 3 or 4 drops of Breathe. And help open those airways for you. And other things that are going on in the brain. Okay. That belief system in ourselves. Well, that covers quite a bit. And I'm not getting into the blends yet. I have a couple more of the Bs for next Tuesday. So next Tuesday, we're going to go into black pepper and black spruce. Because I'm sure a lot of you are not aware of black spruce or black pepper. Or the fact that, like, what, black pepper? Oh, what's that guy? Like, that's stuff I put on my food, right? Well, it's more than that. So let's talk about those two. We're going to cover 2 oils every week, and we're going through the Bs. So as soon as I get through the singles, then we'll get through to the blends, and then we'll go on from there. So if you want to learn a whole lot more, I hope that you will join me, and I look forward to seeing you and finding out more about what essential oils can do for you and your household. Now, if you're following me on my YouTube channel, it's Diana Hinkle. And if you need more information, you need to get a hold of me, you can go to naturalsforanimals.com. And that's naturals with the number 4. So naturals for number 4 animals.com. And there you can email me. And if you have specific problems or anything that you would like to cover, please reach out to me and let me know so that we can help you find solutions that can be very simple to use. Thank you for joining us. Have a blessed evening, and we'll see you next week.